Hey everybody, we're here with Amy Oscar doing an interview for the Soul Purpose Project. Amy, it's so great to have you here.
It is my joy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank
It's
you.
definitely our pleasure, definitely. So, Amy, before we start, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do for work right now?
Sure. I would say I wear two hats right now. In one, sort of in one realm of my work, I am a soul caller. I developed a program called the Soul Caller Training. Actually, I'm a soul caller in all the realms, but in this one realm, I teach other people to work with the principles of self empowerment, self awareness, but mostly to live with an awareness of what world this actually is that we're living in, and to interact with that world as love. That you are love, it is love. I guess that's the realm. That's the main realm that I'm working. And then the other one is that I'm a magazine editor. I edit the My Guardian Angel column for Doreen Virtue in Woman's World magazine, which is kind of how I got started on this wacky soul collar journey myself. Yeah. And then, as you know, because I worked with you, I also do one-on-one counseling with people to help them find their purpose.
So
Yeah.
cool, so cool. What a varied but also cohesive set of things that you do.
Yeah. What an elevator speech.
Yeah,
I
right.
keep crafting it. I keep figuring out. So if someone asks you, what do you do? What do you say? And for a long time, I would just stand there and say, I help people connect to love, which is probably the most accurate answer I can give.
Yeah. And very
I,
succinct as well.
yeah. In an elevator, it matters.
It does.
Yeah.
So, Amy, how would you define a soul purpose? Like, what does that mean to you when you hear it?
Well, that's a wonderful first question because we have to ask what's a soul. We have to ask what does purpose mean? Does purpose mean what use am I? Why was I born? What do we mean by that question, right? So is my soul separate from me? Does it have a purpose for me? A lot of people, when they start looking for their purpose, start looking outside of themselves and start asking questions like, what does the divine want from me? What does God want from me? Why was I put here? As if that's an externalized conversation. And from my perspective, um, the purpose of every human being is to open uh, two things. One, a space, or as Abraham Hicks might say, a vortex for, but a space in the world with your energetic imprint on it, right? And but at the foundation of that, every energetic imprint is the essential journey that every human being makes from um, disconnection to connection, from being knocked out of alignment by life, knocking us around, back into alignment with our own, what you're calling purpose, I think. Um, so for me, it's really an energetic conversation that we're having, right? It's when we say I can help you find your soul purpose, what we're really saying is I can help you connect with that which is inside of you, which is connected to that which is outside of you, and align those two things together so that they resonate as one. Because all spiritual teachings come down to that. I and the divine are one, right? All religions, all gurus, all spiritual paths lead first to the discovery of God in the world around you and the worship for a while of that, and then the discovery of the divine in you and the surprise and delight of that, and also the humility that that brings. Like that which I worshipped is also in me, and then, of course, the terror of that which comes. And then there's a kind of a smoothing out time that I think we come to with spiritual maturity, where we realize we were always that we are everything we look upon, and that in some way we're the architects and co-creators of this mirror world that we sit at the center of and interact with, what I call the call and response universe. Yeah, that's my long answer to that little question.
That's a great answer. It's a great answer. And nobody's answered quite like that before, so thank you.
Oh, good.
Given the definition of soul purpose that you've given, do you know what your purpose is?
I would say I'm getting there. I think that the way that I teach people to look for purpose is to scan back through the activities and experiences that you've had that have felt most resonant for you, where you felt most aligned with that quality of joy, that quality of, open-heartedness, and looking there first. If I scan back my own biography, it's always been when I was a teacher or interacting with a teacher as a student. So teacher is sort of the umbrella for me of my soul purpose, but I really have come to the sense that I'm a soul caller. That's my purpose. That my purpose is to explain what I receive through holographic download, through dreams. I get stuff. I see energy. I read energy. And I didn't always. But I do now. And so my purpose is to attune to what I see and know more and more clearly every day, and to do the best that I can to articulate that. So in that way, I'm also an author, right? So teacher, author, soul caller, mom, yeah. Yeah, pal, we're all so many things. And I guess one of the things that we do in my workshops, especially my advanced work, my Soul Caller Lab, which people take second, is finding, because we can all say like, oh, well, I'm a teacher and I'm a magazine editor and I'm a writer and I'm a blogger and I'm a mother and I'm a wife and I'm a daughter, and we can get confused about all these different hats that we wear. And I could name 10 more of mine, right? And I had a very wise teacher once say to me, well, what basket, if you could only have one basket and you had to put all those things in that one basket, what would that basket be? What would hold all that? And he and I came up with the very humble sole purpose of profit. So, and I say that with real humility, like that what prophets do is we bring through spiritual guidance for others, right? So in that way, I work toward that. As I work toward being capable of that basket, that larger basket. But it does seem to be the work that I'm called to do. Yeah, and there are many, many people working that path right now. You can see them more and more as more people awaken, right? We want to share what we see, right? And I guess I'm going to answer one more way, which is I also think that wounded healer is a basket that I could put myself into, through my own challenges, right? My own hurt, and then my exploration of that, crawling around inside the wound, right? And working on that with others, I discover a great deal that I can then use to share and to help others. So two noble paths that I aspire to. Yeah.
So, Amy, do you feel that everybody has a soul purpose?
Of course. If you didn't, you wouldn't be here. Of course. Yeah. I know you do.
So, how then did you get clear on what your soul purpose is? Like, what was that process like for you?
Lots of working with counselors, lots of writing things out, lots of looking at what came toward me from the world and meeting it from whatever space I was standing in at the time, and noticing what results that delivered to me. If you came toward me from the world in anger and I came back with anger toward you, it didn't feel good to me. So that helped me align to what does feel good to me. It helped me sort of through the experience of call and response. You come toward me with a call, I respond. How does that feel? That feels a certain way. That feeling is yet another call from inside to maybe be a little kinder next time, or to choose different words. And so step by step, inch by inch, year by year, I come to this. But I've had many great teachers as well. And I would be happy to name some of them, but the conversation that each of us is having is always guided, even if we don't actively seek out a teacher or seek out a spiritual guide or seek out an angel. We're being guided from within, and the world outside of us is guiding us all the time. And you can think of it as, even if you don't believe in spirituality at all, if you don't believe in God or angels or any of that, you can just look at the way that a loud noise guides you to cringe, or pain guides you to call the doctor. All of this, all sensation, all input from the world is guidance. And then it's up to us to receive that and interpret that back. So does that answer the question, or did I go all the way to the side of it?
No, both.
Okay. Okay.
Amy, are you living in your purpose like every day? And if you are, how do you know?
That would make me perfect, wouldn't it? That question is it's a leading question. It's tricky because no, there's no way that I'm in touch with my purpose every day, because I can see how I want to stop using the word alignment, because it's not quite the accurate word that I'm feeling for. Because I take the time before I go into my day to sort of attune to all of that, who I am. I wake up and kind of check in to, it's not who am I today, not like that, but more like who am I all the time. We all wake up from sleep and we sort of inventory from the dream world, our eyes open, and we're like, oh yeah, I'm in a body. Oh yeah, my name is Amy. Oh yeah, I live in New York, right? Kind of we have to drop back in to present time. And so at that moment, I'm also checking in with this I am self that knows who I really am, and kind of planning my day to harmonize with that, right? So am I always in perfect harmony, with this call? That would assume that if I were, my life would be working perfectly and everything would be great and I would have incredible abundance all the time and everyone would love me, right? I mean, that's what the question really wants to know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. No, I'm
possible, right?
Well, I think it's possible to be happy all the time. Let me say it this way: it's possible to be happy all the time with the understanding that you may be sobbing, but also sort of from a centered, whole place, really feeling your emotions, really feeling your life fully, right? So I use the word happy, maybe in a different way than other people might, but I think it's possible to be in touch with that which I am all the time, in such a way that when I'm not in touch, when something knocks me out, from that connection, I feel it right away, and I have the tools to get back to it. That's my answer.
Great answer.
Yeah.
So speaking of, ridiculous amounts of abundance, can you give us your perspective on the link between purpose and money? Do we have to choose between passion and profit, or can we have both, or what do you think?
I don't like to link them, honestly. I don't like to link them. I think that some of us will find our path of purpose. Of course, the classic example is Mother Teresa, right? Where you take a vow of poverty yourself, and you give all that you have to others. So, is that abundance? Right? We're talking. We have to talk about what abundance means. Do we even need abundance anymore in this world where most people in the Western world have enough to eat, enough to drink, clean water? Pretty much, most of us have safe, comfortable housing, right? In that world, do we need more than that? Or do we need enough to meet our needs? And not just at a basic, subsistence level, but enough to meet our needs so that we can do the work that we feel called to do without the stress of the bill collector banging at the door, or the stress of where am I going to sleep tonight, So I'm starting to work from the perspective that I need enough and a little more, right? Like we could say, I need enough plus chocolate. I need enough plus yoga class, right? So there are a few things that I feel I need a little more than enough to make me feel a little special. But beyond that, do I need $80 million in the bank? Only if I can use it to apply to that purpose that we're talking about, right? Only if I can use it to uplift. And by the way, I haven't even named my purpose. I named my roles, right? But those two roles that I named, wounded healer and prophet, are aligned with this purpose, which I just realized I hadn't named, which is to raise the vibrational quality of the planet. It's a big job, right? And I'm not doing it by myself. We're all doing it, right? That's what this whole idea of the soul caller is, the one who opens up their eyes one day and stands up out of their chair that they've been sitting in, wondering what their purpose is, and says, I know. And they stand up, and maybe they turn the TV off, and maybe they don't go on Facebook as often, and they start to get out in the world and actually do the thing that they feel called to do because they can't help it, right? That's purpose, and that comes from inside of you, not from, one day you hear an angel tap you on the shoulder, tap you on the ear and say, oh, by the way, we haven't told you yet, but you've been a good girl and you've lived by all the proper rules, and now you get to know your purpose. Go start a wellness center. It doesn't work like that, right? So we become our purpose by doing our purpose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a quotable, I think.
Tweetable. I like it. Yeah.
So what's a decision that you made in the past to get you on course that you would make again?
I quit my day job. I would definitely do that again. It worked out fine. And I did that out of the sense of I can't do this anymore and do the thing that's calling more powerfully, right? So I would do that again. And when I did it, what was wonderful about my experience was because I had laid the groundwork by doing my best at the job that I had, bringing my purpose right? Which was to uplift the vibrational quality of the world, which means everywhere I am is the world, right? This is the world. I'm sitting with you. I'm in purpose. I'm working to uplift the vibrational quality right this second. But when I'm at Starbucks, that's still my purpose. And if I were taking, tolls on the thruway, that would still be my purpose. It doesn't matter what your job is. So I was already in touch with the wave of that moving through me, opening my heart, starting to call to me. And I knew I could do it there. And I had been working on it there. But then the teacher part started to also call to me. And in order to write my own work and teach, I needed more time to myself. So I quit my job, and my editor said, well, you know what, we really want to keep you. So I asked if I could take the work that I do freelance, which would give me the time, and that's what I do now. So that worked. That worked really well. I took the risk of leaving, having laid the groundwork of doing my best already. And that gave her a chance to acknowledge the work I had done and say, you know what, we like the way you do this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a choice that I would make again. Yeah.
So in making that choice and taking that risk, did you feel overall supported or sort of discouraged by your existing community?
Which community?
Your community, however you would define that.
You mean, for example, like I have this risky choice that I want to make, and maybe my husband thinks it's a really bad idea, that kind of thing?
No. Is that
or your family or your friends? Okay. No, my experience was that, because I didn't just suddenly get up and quit one day and put my family into financial hardship. And I think that's really an important distinction to make. I took my time. I've observed that people who are taking these risks, making these choices that are kind of look like a big sudden step to change your life, have done a lot of thinking and planning beforehand. I certainly did. My husband and I sat down. We talked about where the money would come from. What would we do without the health insurance that I was about to lose? Could we afford to buy our own? That kind of thing. And so we planned for it for a few months, and it turned out okay. And then in that way, I also planned for that. So that was the financial piece. So I had his support because I didn't just drop it in his lap and say, here, fix this for me, right? I had the relationship with the people around me that I had also pre-paved, right? I had also done the work in the months and years leading up to my choice by taking care of, again, my intention. My intention was clear and clean with them. So when I made the choice, they knew I was going to make it. It wasn't a surprise. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Yeah. And we thought it was a good choice. My husband and I thought, in other words, I didn't decide, gee, I think I'd like to be an astronaut, and then expect him to support me in something that I had never shown any aptitude for whatsoever, right? He might say, well, you might want to take a science class, right, if I had said something like that. But I said, I think I want to teach this stuff that I've been studying for 25 years. I think I want to teach this stuff that I used to teach, right, before I had children. I think I'm fully trained to teach this stuff. I'm ready to go. I have all the certification that I need. So, and I said that was part of the pre-paving as well. So I made a big choice, a big move that felt a little risky, but it wasn't really, not really risky at all. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Amy, what's been like emotionally hard in this journey, and how do you deal with that?
The hardest thing is when, well, there are two things. The hardest thing is when my own life doesn't work, and then I show up and I have to teach a class. I've had a really hard year. My father died a month ago, right? So I've had a really hard year, and the the expectation that I had when I started teaching spiritual classes was that I would have to pretend to be perfect and spiritual all the time, and that my community would expect that from me. And so the first year was really hard for me because I had to be vulnerable and I had to let them see me suffering when I was suffering. I had to be real. I had to be real. And what a gift they gave to me when I was real, and they thought that was okay. That was kind of cool, you know. And my vulnerability allowed them to show more of theirs as well. So that, I think that was the hardest thing, and also the greatest gift, which they often go hand in hand. You know, right?
Yeah.
You know. With launching this project, I'm sure there's some of that, right?
Yes.
Would you say? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then I said there were two things. The second thing is other people's expectations coming toward me. There's an expression I use where I do a lot of coaching of people like me who are launching spiritual communities, tribes of their own, and find themselves in that moment of, oh my God, like I'm being put on this pedestal and I don't quite know what to do because these heels are too high and the altitude's giving me a nosebleed. I don't like it up here. And so I've done a lot of coaching with people like that. And what I tell people is that remember I said earlier, there's that time on the spiritual journey when you're just starting out. And for some people it's for a long time, where the power of this divine force that you sense in the world is outside of you in other things, right? It's in God, it's in the priest or the guru or the teacher or the book, right? Or the object, like it's in I have all these crystals, right, behind me. A lot of people buy all the crystals and have the sense that now they'll use the crystals for healing without bringing any of the authority to feed and seed that crystal's potential through themselves, because it's really just a tool. It's really just a focusing tool, the crystal, right? And it's the healer that brings the energy through. So where I'm going with that is the challenge of having people come toward you as a teacher, as a coach, with this feeling that if they touch the hem of your garment, they'll be healed, is challenging because the ego gets involved. The ego wants that. The ego says, yeah, sure, touch the hem of my garment, right? And give me lots of money, right? So there's this game that all healers, all coaches, all gurus, you might have, in the past I would have called it a test, but now I would just call it another invitation to come back into alignment with who I really am, right? Because I no longer believe that there's something outside of me testing me, ever, right? All that's out there testing me is a projection of my own fear and my own ego story of, oh, I want some of that power. Yeah, I'll pretend to have a powerful garment, right? So, and all teachers face that. So those are the two biggest challenges for me of this path. Yeah.
Great answer. What's different about you now that you are living in your purpose versus when you weren't?
Everything, of course. Everyone probably says that. I no longer have access to how it was. I can't remember. It's been honey, could you turn that fan off because the sound, thank you. I no longer have access to some of the memory of who I was then. I can remember if people tell me a story of how I behaved or something, but a lot of that doesn't make sense to me anymore. and the more I get sort of on this, it's kind of like when you're 12 and then you grow up and you're 30. When you're 30, it's hard to remember how you felt when you were 12. It's just time passing, right? But it's also, there's an energetic evolution where I have less and less access. So I'll answer the question from that perspective and say everything's different. And I think the most significant thing would be to say I don't feel afraid all the time anymore.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. I rarely feel afraid. And when I feel afraid, again, like I said, I have the tools. I notice I feel afraid, which tells me the part of me that I really am, that some aspect of myself has broken off and gone outside of wholeness. Some fragmentation has taken place, right? And I need to pull that back, pull all my pieces back, as Carolyn Myss would say. Call my pieces back from the past. Call my pieces back from the wounds, right? And recalibrate, reorganize, and, sort of stand in my wholeness again. Yeah.
So as it, I guess, extrapolating from that, how has your impact on the world changed?
My interest in the world, did you say? My impact. I was just thinking about that today, actually. I've had a very introspective year, and my experience just before this last part of my dad's life, I had the experience that I had a relationship with the physical world where I could create effects in the world through prayer and through intention and through joining with others in positive prayer to affect healing, to affect support, to offer comfort. I hope that makes sense, what I just said. I felt more effective before I got hit with this loss. And so I was just thinking about that today, how when we hurt, we turn in, as I said earlier, we wince away from the hurting. But in this one, I wanted to be with my dad at full presence. So I pulled all that effect in the world conversation that I was having. I pulled all that sense of like, I'm here to heal the world. I'm here to help uplift the world. And I put it all in me and my dad for 4 or 5 months. And so it's a profound question to ask me at this time, because what I'm left with as he passed, what I was left with was this vacuum of, and by the way, it was a joyful passing. No one should feel sad for me. He was 87 years old. He lived a rich, full life. And, I thank God his suffering ended. He ended, quickly, that he went quickly. So, and he's here. He's everywhere with me every day. So I just want to make sure if anyone has any concern about that because so many people with their beautiful hearts hear something like that and hurt for you. And I want to reassure you, if you feel that way, that I'm okay. And he's okay. But so to answer your question, just like when my children moved out of the house, it's now 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when they were both in college, I had the experience where I suddenly realized, oh, all this mother energy that I hold needs to go somewhere, and I turned it toward the world. And I used to say, I'm the mother of the world now. How can I? And you see where that gesture of uplifting and supporting and bringing the world back into alignment with love is right there in that statement, even though I didn't know it then. Right? So even when, and I'm speak to all the mothers of young children, even when you're just holding your child and comforting them and letting them know that they're loved, you're uplifting their capacity to love, and therefore their ability to occupy their place in the world. This little 3-year-old is going to grow up and be a 30-year-old and need to occupy a space in the world fully. And isn't it wonderful if they've had the experience of being held in their mother's lap and loved fully, so they know that experience and can bring it into that vortex that they're trying to create with them from that memory and drop that sense experience in and reproduce it and replicate it for others. That makes sense? It's all about this vibration. It's all about bringing resonance to your own little piece of the world so that you kind of add to the resonance that the person next to you is bringing and add to the resonance that next person. And we're all little cells in the tissue of humanity, all vibrating together, uplifting or down, or, bringing it down. Some people are determined to bring the vibration down, right? Out of their own sense of separation from that, or their own woundedness, right? So, but even that we can meet as love. Love underwater, love that got thwarted, love that never got to sit in its mother's lap, right? It's all love. It's all love.
So maybe that's the answer to my next question, which is, what would you say are the ingredients for success or advice that you give people who are trying to pursue their own purpose?
Success in pursuing their own purpose. I love these questions. They're so huge. You didn't say, I'll give you 15 minutes to answer huge questions. I'm sure we're way over 15 minutes. Can you ask me that one again?
Sure. What would you say are the ingredients for success or advice you would give someone who is searching for their soul purpose?
Take my class and I'll explain this more fully, or find a path where you can expand what I'm about to say very quickly. But the ingredients, I think, would be self-awareness, of course, developing a relationship with the world around you, so that you can begin to feel into what's around you as real experience, not your idea of what should be there, and if it's not the way you think it should be, an invitation to react and push it away. Right? So that's a very complicated concept that probably doesn't really answer your question, but the point I'm trying to make is awakening to yourself as a real living being, connected to the planet that you're walking on, connected to the natural world of which you're a part, right? That would be one. In other words, becoming real, letting yourself be real. And part of that realness is what I described earlier, allowing the people around you to see your vulnerability, taking the masks away, working, if need be, with a therapist, if need be, with some sort of group program, some kind of sacred practice that helps you turn within and take a look at yourself as more than a 9-to-5 employee who goes home, puts TV dinner in, and watches television, right? You're much more than that, and you know it, right? And so what are the ingredients? Open-heartedness, open-mindedness, willingness is the absolute number one ingredient in the cake of you becoming whole. Willingness to at least consider change, because change is what we're afraid of. right? We're afraid of change, and so we hold on to what's here because it's familiar, and we don't let things change, and then we get stuck. Or we sit in our stuckness, we sit in our brokenness, and we reach for, sort of into the future, but from a powerless way, from a powerless reaching, wishing, wanting to be rescued, rather than having a sense of ourselves as the author of our own story. Does that make sense? There's so much in that answer.
Yes.
Yeah, I have to work on that one. That's the kind of elevator answer that I need to be able to give more simply, but yeah.
Well, I think your answers were wonderful, Amy. Thank you so much. Those are all my questions.
Oh, okay.
So
let me give you one more elevator answer though. I just realized it's right in all my work. When someone ask me the question again, the ingredients for
success or advice you would give anyone searching for their purpose.
Meet every single thing that you encounter with this question or with this from this place. If I were love and that were love, how would I meet this? Right? What would love do here? That's the question I would ask of every single thing that happens. So if you have an argument as you're leaving in the morning, right? You have an argument with your spouse in the kitchen. You catch yourself, I'm having an argument. I don't want to have an argument. What would love do here? And that includes love for yourself, right? Not just what would love do here? Okay, honey, I forget it. It's my fault. Don't do that. That's not what I mean. I mean, what would love itself do here? The love would take us both in love's lap and gently let us know that we're okay, right? That it's okay to get upset, and it would acknowledge that we're stressed out because we're racing to work and we're late and the baby was crying last night, we didn't get enough sleep and the bills are late. And in other words, love would see all that and would say, that's okay. You're all right anyway. I see you. I love you anyway. So that's what love would do. So I would ask that of every single thing that I encounter, and that would change your life.
Wow. Powerful stuff, Amy. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Then my work is done here.
So, Amy, if someone watching this wanted to take your class or get any more information about how to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
They can go to amyoscar.com, and all the information is there. And they're always welcome to send me an email. It's amy@amyoscar.com. Or follow me on Facebook.
Perfect. Thank you again so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. It was an honor and a delight. Thank you for your wonderful questions.
Thanks, Amy. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.